Today, I'm going to show you how to run wet, dry, wet using only your HX Stomp. For those of you that are familiar with Line6's HX Stomp, you know that there are plenty of onboard effects and so many routing options available. You can run mono, dual mono, stereo, wet, dry, wet. You can use your amp's effects loop. You can do all sorts of things with this pedal over both MIDI and many other options for controlling it as well. HX Stomp can also be used for running wet, dry, wet. Today, I'm going to show you how to use HX Stomp in wet, dry, wet without using any amps and how I did it with all the different blocks available. First, let's get into the different lines and how we are running them. I also, as a side note, quickly figured out that you cannot run HX Stomp's HX Edit, which is their editing program, on the same computer that you are recording on. There's a loud, high-pitched hum, and I figured you guys wouldn't want to listen to that. So I'm going to give you some screenshots along the way of what I did on the HX Edit, so you can better see what I'm doing than just seeing the little screen on HX Stomp itself. Just for us old analog folks running digital pedals, doesn't make sense. I also have the pedal here in a live view, so you can see what I'm doing on the pedal itself. First thing we need to talk about is the dry line. So there are going to be three lines that we are talking about today. The first is a dry output. In today's configuration, the dry output is seeing everything before modulation, delay, and reverb. So that dry output is getting overdrives, distortion, fuzz, compression, all that type of stuff. This is what that dry output sounds like. Not bad. Again, no amps, this is direct in and it's sounding pretty good. I'm using the Matchstick Channel 1 with a couple of tweaks along the way and it's great. The other thing we are going to run are two wet lines. This is going to be in full stereo. I have a left wet panned hard left and I have right panned hard right. Makes sense. And these are also run in parallel and in kill dry. The main reason for this, which I'll explain in a second, is it gives you more separation from that dry line than running a standard series, one pedal into another, wet section. Again, you can see how I'm doing this on the screenshots I'm going to put up with those wet effects, but the main thing before I show you these wet effects in the audio example is that I am running the mix at 100%. I'm running a reverb on channel A in stereo, so reverb's going to left and right, and I'm running a delay in path B in stereo, again running to the left and the right. The main thing to know when doing this on the HX series is kill dry is the same as running mix at 100%. Then you can control the level of each effect with the actual level knob. So you can still run in kill dry and control the level. All of this can be done with MIDI and you can get more control over MIDI, expression pedals, foot switches on board the HX Stomp, whole bunch of different ways you can control this. Today we are just using the HX Stomp. So let me show you what I did really quick. Let's go to the delay first. And I am running mix at 100%. And right now, just for the sake of the audio examples, level is at 0, or basically the same level as that dry line. Not how you normally run it in reality, but this is how we're going to do it today, just to show you. Again, on reverb, mix at 100, level at 0. Pretty straightforward. This is what wet only sounds like. So that dry is gone. It sounds like there's still a bit of dry passing through, but what you're actually hearing is the reverb decay coming in right away. So to illustrate that, let's go to pre-delay on the reverb and we'll put it up pretty high here. Let's go up to 200 milliseconds. We'll max out the pre-delay on the reverb. I'll show you when I hit the guitar and you can see what I mean by decay and repeats only going through those wet lines. So here I'm going to hit the guitar, and then you'll hear the effects come in. Pretty cool. So reverb and delay are in parallel, running in stereo, panned hard left and hard right. We'll bring pre-delay back down to 30 milliseconds or so. And now let's get into how we routed this so we can have wet, dry, wet. The first block up, I put in, as mentioned, an amp and cab sim. This is so I can send amp and cab sim type effects to the dry out, the left out, and the right out of this whole chain of effects. So the amp and cab sim is placed in between my dry lines or my analog effects coming into the HX Stomp, amp and cab sim. Then we go dry out, send to left, send to right. So all of those outputs are getting this amp and cab sim. You can split this up any way you want. You can put cab at the very end of all the lines and amp at the beginning, amp and cab at the end of all the lines, and choose different amps for each one. All sorts of things that you can do here. But today I'm just keeping this part simple. Then we are into the key block for running wet, dry, wet with HX Stomp, and that is a send block. In the send block, you can see that you have a send level and a dry through level. In other words, you have a dry output level and a wet send level. So right now I've set this up so I have a dry mute, and that's this foot switch, and a wet mute, which is this foot switch. Let me show you how I did that really quick. To do that, what I did is I brought the send level all the way down to minus 120 dB or off. Really anything, below 50 or 60, you're going to have a hard time hearing. Then I held down that foot switch. This is send is equal to dry output in this routing option. Min value at minus 120, max value at 0. The default is up to 6 dB, so make sure that you are actually down to 0 there. Learn, foot switch number 1, we are now saved. Then let's see what that sounds like here. So the dry mute is working. Now let's do the same with our wet. We're going to bring this down to 0. Sorry, we're going to bring this down to minus 120. Hold down that button. Again, make sure that you aren't on the default of plus 6 dB, which is equal to a boost. And then the min value is minus 120. Learn, hit the foot switch you want. And now, currently right now, we should be muted. Yep. Dry only. Wet only. Both. Max value for some reason jumped up to 6 dB. We're going to go into max value. We're going to save. We're going to go into this. Same for the wet. Save. Let's see if we, perfect, now it's working. So now we have both. And then from there, all you're gonna do is run your other modulation effects. You can do this in stereo. So for instance, I did this with chorus. You can do tremolo, flanger, whatever you want. And then we split into the main effects you want to run in parallel, which is delay and reverb. These are the ones that will have the biggest effect on your sound. The other thing I would really encourage you guys to try is putting things like chorus, tremolo, flanger before the split to your dry output or before that send block. This means that the dry out, the left and the right out will all get these modulation effects. Just see what you like more and experiment with it. That is how you run your HX Stomp in wet, dry, wet with parallel delay and reverb. That is a lot going on there. I hope this made sense to you guys. Let me play a few examples as we finish up the video and post your questions below.